One of our subscribers named Jolie shared this story, and the moment she stepped out of a cheap Uber and saw her own $80,000 car in someone else's hands, she realized the war had already started. The engine of the $80,000 Range Rover roared so loudly it drowned out the gravel crunching under my Uber. I stood in the driveway of my grandfather's Hamptons estate, staring at the SUV registered in my name. But I wasn't the one driving it. My sister Amber was. She lowered her sunglasses and smirked at me like she'd just won something that was never a competition. My grandfather, Arthur, stood on the porch, pointing with a trembling finger. "Jolie, where is the car I sent you?" Before I could answer, my mother Cynthia stepped forward with a smile cold enough to freeze the ocean. "Oh, Dad," she said lightly, casually, destroying my life. Her sister needed it more. You know how selfish Jolie gets about sharing. That was the moment the war started. Before I tell you what my grandfather did when he realized who was actually behind the wheel, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I want to see how far this story travels. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. That was the reaction they wanted. If I exploded, I'd be the unstable daughter again, the ungrateful one they all had to tolerate. Instead, something cold settled over me. Clarity. For 24 years, I told myself my mother's behavior was favoritism, carelessness, bad judgment. But standing in that driveway, looking at the car that should have been mine, I understood the truth. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was accounting. She debited my life to credit Amber's, and she counted on my silence to balance the books. I work as a crisis manager for luxury events. When disasters hit, flooded venues, missing caterers, I don't panic. I assess, identify liability, execute solutions. Standing there, I realized this wasn't a family reunion. It was a crisis site. Cynthia stepped in front of me, lowering her voice into that dangerous whisper she used when she wanted control. "Don't you dare," she hissed. Her smile stayed fixed for the neighbors watching. "Don't you dare ruin your grandfather's birthday with your jealousy. Smile, go inside, we'll discuss this later." She expected me to shrink. That had always been the script. She pushed, I folded, peace at any cost. But peace was already dead. It died the second I realized my signature had been forged onto a life I never received. I walked past her without a word, around her like she was a traffic cone, straight to my grandfather. Arthur stood gripping the porch railing, knuckles white, eyes moving between the SUV and my worn shoes. He wasn't just a grandfather in that moment. He was Arthur. The man who built a construction empire by spotting bad deals before contracts dried. "Grandfather," I said evenly, loud enough for Amber to hear, "I need you to answer one question." He nodded slowly. "Did you sign the title of that car over to me or to Amber?" "To you," he said, his voice rough. 3 months ago, your mother returned the paperwork with your signature." The air went still. Amber shut off the engine. Silence crashed into the driveway. "I've never seen that paperwork," I said. "I never saw the car, and I never signed anything giving it away." Cynthia laughed nervously. "Dad, she's confused. She's tired from traveling. You know how she gets." Arthur never looked at her. He kept staring at me, searching for the lie Cynthia had trained to expect. All he found was someone done being collateral damage. "Are you telling me," he said quietly, "you did not authorize this?" "That," I said, "is stolen property." Arthur's face hardened. Warmth vanished. Confusion vanished. The mask of a man who'd crushed competitors for less settled into place. He didn't shout. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and dialed. He stared at the SUV like evidence in a trial. "Security," he said. "Close the main gate." A pause. "No one leaves." As we walked toward the garden party on the back lawn, the staff watched us carefully. We could sense tension, but my pulse was steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't arriving like a beggar hoping for approval. I was arriving like a creditor collecting a debt. People always say, "It's just money. She's your mother. They did their best." Those people don't know the ledger in my head. Watching Amber stride ahead with my keys in her hand, I wasn't thinking about $80,000. I was thinking about the cost of being Cynthia's daughter. It started when I was 16. That was the year Cynthia sat me at the kitchen table and told me if I wanted to keep living in my bedroom, I had to pay rent, $300 a month, a lesson in responsibility. I got a job scrubbing fryers after school. My hand smelled like old grease for 2 years. I paid every dollar. 3 months after I started paying rent, Amber turned 14. Cynthia bought her a pony. Not symbolic, a real horse. The stable fees alone cost more per month than I earned all year. That was entry number 1. Entry number 2 was college. My grandfather created accounts for both of us. When I turned 18 and went to withdraw my tuition deposit, the account was empty. The market crashed, Cynthia said, wiping fake tears. It's gone. So I signed student loan papers. Debt I'm still paying today. 6 months later, Amber posted photos from Milan. Gap year, modeling classes, first-class flights, designer apartments. The cost matched my college fund exactly. Amber never booked a single job. She came home with a tan and expensive clothes. I went back to working double shifts at the library. The last entry came 2 years ago. I was between apartments, sleeping on Cynthia's couch. She said she was broke, electricity about to be cut off. I paid the bills, bought groceries, filled her gas tank, drained my savings to keep her safe. Then I found the receipt. Vintage Chanel handbag. $3,000, exactly what I'd given her for utilities. She hadn't been broke. She'd been bored. So no, this wasn't about a car. The SUV was the first time someone had given me something without Cynthia intercepting it. She didn't just steal a vehicle. She stole proof I was worth giving a gift to. To her, I wasn't a daughter. I was a resource. Amber was the harvest. We reached the patio. Perfume and ocean air mixed in the breeze. Crystal glasses clinked. Laughter drifted across manicured hedges. A perfect party funded by a man who didn't yet know his daughter was a thief. Cynthia hurried toward the bar, desperate to drown tension in Chardonnay. She thought this was another argument she could smooth over with a lie. She didn't understand. The ledger was full, and today, I was closing the account. The garden party was a performance of wealth. White-jacketed waiters carried oysters and truffle arancini. A string quartet played beside the infinity pool. For years, places like this made me feel small. Today, they just looked expensive, and I knew exactly who paid for everything. I barely stepped onto the lawn before my Aunt Linda intercepted me, champagne in hand, sympathy on her face. "Jolie, honey, your mother told us about the car. I know black isn't your color, but refusing your grandfather's gift seems a bit ungrateful." I stared at her. The lie was so lazy, it almost impressed me. Cynthia hadn't even tried. She just painted me as the brat, because everyone already believed the story. "Is that what she said?" I asked calmly. "She said you threw a fit," Linda whispered, leaning in like we were sharing a secret. "She said you were jealous of Amber's success and wanted cash instead. Honestly, dear, you should be happy your sister's doing so well." Before I could correct the record, Cynthia materialized. She hooked her arm through Linda's and steered her away, casting a sharp, warning glare in my direction. "Oh, Linda, let's not bore Jolie. She's in a mood." She circled back to me a moment later, dragging Amber with her. Amber was holding a glass of vintage Dom Perignon, creating a condensation ring on the silk of her dress. She looked at me over the rim of her glass, her eyes glassy with unearned triumph. "Nice Uber, Amber," Amber giggled. "Did you use a coupon?" "Enjoy the champagne, Amber," I said. "It costs $300 a bottle. That's about 2 hours of the consulting fees you charged to my identity last year." Amber's smile faltered, but Cynthia stepped between us, her hand clamping onto my wrist. Her nails dug into my skin. It was a move she'd perfected, inflicting pain while maintaining a smile for the photographers. "Listen to me," Cynthia hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You are going to face your face. You are going to go over to your grandfather and tell him you made a mistake. You tell him you were confused, that you forgot about the paperwork. If you ruin this party, Jolie, I swear to God you will never see another dime from this family. I will cut you off so completely you won't even exist." She thought she was threatening me. She thought she was holding the keys to my survival. She didn't realize she was threatening a ghost. You can't cut off someone who has already severed the limb. "I'm not going to ruin the party, Mom," I said, pulling my wrist free. I smoothed my sleeve, checking for marks. "I'm just here to watch the show."
Cynthia narrowed her eyes, sensing a shift she couldn't identify. She was used to me pleading, crying, or apologizing. My silence unnerved her. She grabbed Amber's arm and pulled her toward the VIP table, muttering about ungrateful children. I watched them go. They were laughing now, clinking glasses, posing for selfies with the stolen car in the background. They looked powerful. They looked untouchable. But I wasn't looking at their smiles. I was looking at Arthur, who had just walked up to the microphone stand near the massive outdoor projection screen. He tapped the mic twice. The sound echoed across the lawn, silencing the string quartet. Cynthia raised her glass to him, thinking he was about to make a toast to her parenting skills. She didn't know the projector wasn't loaded with family photos. The microphone feedback squealed, a sharp electric shriek that cut through the garden chatter like a knife. The string quartet stopped mid-measure. 200 heads turned toward the stage. My grandfather stood there, adjusting the lapels of his tuxedo, looking out at the crowd with the serene, terrifying calm of a captain about to scuttle his own ship. Cynthia was still holding her glass, raised halfway to her mouth, her smile frozen in a rictus of confusion. She expected a toast. She expected Arthur to praise her hosting skills, to gush about family unity, to play the role of the benevolent patriarch she relied on to fund her lifestyle. "I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the screen," Arthur said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried to the back of the lawn. "My daughter prepared a slideshow of family memories. However, I decided to make a few edits." He tapped his tablet. The massive outdoor projection screen, which was supposed to show baby photos and vacation highlights, flickered to life. The image that appeared wasn't a memory. It was a high-definition, time-stamped photograph taken with a telephoto lens. The silence on the lawn was absolute. "Exhibit A," Arthur said, his tone dry as dust. "August 14th, 2 in the afternoon. This is the day Cynthia claimed Jolie rejected her birthday gift."
Because it wasn't her style. As you can see, this is the valet stand at a nightclub in the meatpacking district, and that is Amber handing the keys of that rejected gift to a valet. On the screen, Amber looked blurry but undeniable, laughing, handing over the fob to the very car parked in the driveway right now. Amber dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the flagstones, the sound exploding like a gunshot in the quiet. Arthur swiped the screen again. A grainy security clip appeared. Cynthia, blonde highlights visible, signing papers in a dingy office. "Exhibit B, September 1st, quick cash title loans," Arthur said. "Here is Cynthia signing a collateral agreement." Cynthia gasped. "Dad, stop!" Arthur ignored her. "You didn't just steal the car. Jolie owned the title. You forged her signature to take out a $20,000 predatory loan and spent it on a villa in Tulum and a wardrobe for Amber." The crowd collectively recoiled. This was no family spat anymore. Arthur set down the tablet, his voice icy. "This is grand larceny and identity theft. Felonies in New York." Police lights flashed through the gate. 2 officers approached Cynthia to arrest her. Cornered, Cynthia pulled out a document and declared she had power of attorney authorizing her to manage Jolie's finances. The police examined it and hesitated. On paper, it looked valid. The mood shifted. Cynthia turned on her daughter, accusing Jolie of lying and filing a false report. Even I faltered until Arthur stepped forward. "Check the date," he said calmly. "Valentine's Day." He then produced a notarized affidavit proving the document was forged. Cynthia bribed a notary in a parking lot. The officers instantly pivoted back to arrest mode. "Why didn't you stop me?" Cynthia whispered. Arthur's answer was brutal. "Forgery alone wasn't enough. I needed a felony to activate the no contest clause in my trust. I let you run up the charges. You didn't just steal a car, you stole your own inheritance." Cynthia collapsed as police cuffed her and dragged her to the squad car, screaming. Amber realized her free ride had ended. Arthur returned to the microphone. "The bar is open." Later, he handed me the Range Rover keys. "It's yours. The loan is cleared." I refused. "Sell it. I want the cash for my new firm." He smiled. "Done."
I left the party, deleted my mother's and Amber's contacts, and watched the Hamptons disappear behind me, not with sorrow, but with clarity. I wasn't just vindicated, I was free.